Every single summer, I shred around 10 to 15 pounds in 60 days. And in this video, I'm gonna show you how we do it, but I'm also gonna show you how you cannot simply just rely on discipline. There are gonna be 4 stages to this video. Firstly, your calories and your macronutrients. Now, your calories, I want you to think about these like dollars or pounds. These are gonna be your budget for the day. And then your macros are gonna be where you allocate those dollars and pounds and where you allocate those resources across your proteins, your carbs, and your fats. The second thing we'll be going into is your training, how to actually shape the physique, how to build lean muscle, how to get strong, and do this with less than 3 hours of training per week. Number 3 is gonna be how you navigate those inevitable weight loss plateaus when you're dieting and looking to lose body fat and your weight loss stops. Okay, so we're gonna show you how you can actually navigate those moments, how to get back on track, how to start dropping body fat without simply just adding more hours and doing a load of extra things within your week. And then our 4th and final point for this video is gonna be calorie banking, how you can navigate those social events, those weekends, those work events, when you simply can't be sticking to your meal prep, or maybe you can't get as many training sessions in, how you can navigate those socials and those work events to still be able to drop body fat in time for the summer. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, before we dive into the video, I wanna break 2 beliefs that you might have as to why you think you cannot get in shape for the summer, why you think that you cannot drop body fat as a whole. And the first one is gonna be time. Now, a lot of people say that they don't have enough time to do this. With our methods and the guys that we work with, we do this on less than 3 hours of training per week. We don't expect you to spend hours doing cardio, hours and hours in the gym, hours in the kitchen. We do this in the most efficient way possible. Now, I work 80 to 90-hour weeks, managing my business, managing my staff, getting guys in shape. And I do this while still able to get in shape, stay in shape all year round. So you don't need tons of time to do this. I train 3 days per week. I work 80 hours, I'm still able to maintain my physique and get in shape. And not to mention, we have helped over 700 high-performing men who work corporate jobs, who have families, who are working 12, 15-hour days themselves, and they're still able to get in shape, and you can see that from the results on screen. The second belief that I want to break here is that a lot of high-performing guys, entrepreneurs, business owners, guys who are working pretty corporate, time-constrained jobs, often think that because they have discipline, that is going to be the thing that allows them to get in shape, and they don't need frameworks, they don't need strategies, they can just grit it out and rely on discipline. When, as a matter of fact, what I've actually found is that with the guys that we work with, those high performers who have that discipline and they've needed it in the workplace, often at times are the ones who struggle the most to have a healthy physique. And you look at guys like Elon Musk, he's more disciplined than you and I combined, and I've said this before, he's a multi-billionaire, tons of discipline, but the guy is still out of shape. So it doesn't come down to discipline, you need a strategy, you need a framework, you need good habits. So let's kick things off by actually understanding how you lose weight as a human. Now, you've got to remember that your body is an engine, and you as an engine, as a human, you burn a certain amount of fuel every single day. Now, the amount of fuel that you burn, the amount of energy that you expend every single day at rest is called your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, your metabolism, to simplify things. Now, we need to work out your BMR, and in today's world, you can speak to AI and get those numbers pretty fast. But if you want to work it out simply today and use this equation, it is your body weight in pounds multiplied by 10. That's going to give you your basal metabolic rate, how many calories you burn at rest before we exercise, before we even move, just your bodily functions. Now, where most people go wrong when they're looking at trying to drop body fat and work out their calories and how much food they need to be eating is they try to eat less than their BMR. They try to eat less than their basal metabolic rate. But what you actually need to eat less than is your total daily energy expenditure. This is the amount of energy you expend throughout the day, including things like exercise, including moving around, pottering around the office, at home, those bits and pieces. So to work that out, you want to take your BMR, the number we've just worked out, and multiply it by an activity multiplier. Now, you can use the scale on screen here, where effectively, if you are fairly sedentary, you don't move around much at all, you work sat down at the office the majority of the day, and you maybe don't exercise as much as you perhaps should, you would multiply your BMR by 1.2 as an activity multiplier. But let's say you work construction 6 days a week, you're constantly lifting heavy things, you're moving around loads, and then you train, maybe quite a few times per week. You would then multiply your BMR by an activity multiplier that is around 1.9 perhaps. But obviously between these two numbers, there is a sliding scale here based on your activity, based on your job. So make sure you use this scale, multiply your BMR by an activity multiplier here. That's gonna give you your total daily energy expenditure for the day. That is how many calories you burn as an individual through the day. And if we eat less than this number, that is going to be your calorie deficit, which will help you lose body fat. So for me, going into the summer, I'm going into quite an aggressive dieting phase where I want to try and knock that 10 to 15 pounds off the next 60 days. So what I'm going to do is take my TDEE, my total daily energy expenditure, that number that we just worked out, and subtract 700 calories from this. That's going to be the amount of calories I will be eating to lose body fat. Now, a deficit of 700 calories is quite aggressive, but when you actually simplify things, that could be literally removing your milk and your sweeteners from your couple of coffees per day. It can be stopping yourself from having that handful of nuts in an evening. So it's really simple to bring your calories down, and the easiest way to get yourself into that deficit is just by removing those little things that you probably don't need within our diet in the day. Then we move into our macronutrients. Now remember, your calories are your budget, and your macronutrients are where you allocate those dollars and pounds, where you spend that budget. Now there are three main macronutrients that we need to know: proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Now to simplify this process for anyone watching this video, ultimately you want to look good, right? You want to lose the body fat, but you don't want to look skinny and weak. You see a lot of people who lose weight, but they just still have that kind of like skinny fat look. Now the reason they look that way is because firstly, they haven't nailed their protein. So out of all the macronutrients, the one I really want you to focus on is your protein intake. If you keep a high amount of protein within your diet, when you lose that body fat and you lose that weight, you're going to maintain muscle and you're going to have a decent looking physique, a lean, defined looking physique. Because without eating enough protein, what your body starts to do is starts to eat into your muscle as a form of energy. So we want to make sure that we're getting enough protein in to preserve that muscle tissue, or potentially even build some when we start talking about things like our training sessions and how we can start adding lean muscle as we lose the body fat. So the way that you figure out whether you are eating enough protein or not is really simple. You want to eat around 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight that you have. Now for me as an individual, I'm around 200 pounds. So I want to be consuming around 200 grams of protein. Now, before you start going crazy and thinking that that's a lot of protein and you're never going to be able to fit that in within your day, think about it like this. One protein shake with 2 scoops of whey protein in it is around 50 grams of protein. That then leaves me 150 grams of protein to get in the entire rest of the day. That could be 3 meals of 50 grams of protein or around 4 meals of 37.5 grams of protein. But it's really simple when you break it down like that. 1 shake with 2 scoops of protein, and then 3 meals with protein within them, around 50 grams of protein within each meal. And then obviously we mentioned carbs and fats. Now this is different for everyone. Everyone responds differently to high carb diets, high fat diets, high fat, low carb, high carb, low fat. You've got to figure out what works best for you and your body. Now I've tried the high fat, low carb diets and personally didn't feel great on these, but other people I know respond really well to that. I prefer slightly higher carbohydrates, predominantly using those carbohydrates around my workout sessions, and slightly lower fats. Now, like I said, everyone is different here, but ultimately what you want to make sure you nail is those 2 numbers there, calories and protein. Carbs and fats distribute those calories, whatever works best for your body. But if you know your protein and calories and get your resistance training in, which we'll talk about in a moment, you'll start building that physique that you really want to build. But what you'll find is that those who have those lean physiques, those well-defined physiques with more lean muscle, less body fat, that chiseled look all year round, those guys have mastered their metabolic rate. They've mastered their metabolism, which is exactly what we do inside our metabolic mastery method with all the guys, the high performers that we have helped do this. Now, if you want more information on this, by the way, you can just click the link below this video, and it's a video that walks you through the metabolic mastery method in more detail. But now let's head into the training side of things and start talking about that. Now with our training, if we really want to shape, tone and build that physique that you want, you have to focus on resistance training. You don't want to be doing hours and hours of cardio. Instead, you want to be lifting weights, but for less than 3 hours per week, which is what I mentioned inside our metabolic mastery method we do. So as we spoke about earlier, your body is an engine. It is a furnace, okay? And your metabolism effectively is that engine. So by building more lean muscle through our training sessions, you have more lean muscle, therefore your metabolism is going to be faster. Your body's going to start working for you. You're then going to be able to burn more calories at rest if you have more lean muscle and you have a faster metabolism. So these 3 45-minute sessions, we want to focus on adding that lean tissue to impact your metabolism so you can burn more calories at rest. So for me personally, like I said, I train 3 days per week, 45-minute sessions. Now within those sessions, I focus on a few things to make sure that I get the most out of those sessions. Now the first thing is going to be neuro-fatigue finishes. This is where we really tap into that nervous system, short, sharp, impactful sets, really get the most out of those sessions, because most guys stop their training or stop their set when the muscle burns a little bit, but we stop when the actual nervous system taps out. We then want to focus on intelligent load progression. This is making sure we're getting stronger progressively every single week, adding additional reps, adding additional weight, increasing time under tension and those things, because that's going to really make sure that those short sessions we get the most bang for our buck out of those. So for example, 1 week you could be lifting 40 kilos for 8 reps. The next session you come into, you want to lift 40 kilos for 9 reps. And that constant intelligent load progression is going to help you build more lean muscle and therefore impact that metabolism. So within my sessions, I'd be looking to train 3 times per week. And I've been making sure that each muscle group got worked with a combined 10 to 15 sets per week. Making sure each session I focused on intensity, form and accuracy, and then that intelligent load progression. Now, ultimately, at some point on this fat loss journey, you are gonna reach a point where you are no longer dropping body fat. You're stepping on the scale each day, and initially the scale starts coming down, the body fat starts dropping, but at some point you're gonna hit that plateau. Now, if you've done a diet in the past, you've probably experienced this. Now, this is your body basically adapting and saying, look, I'm no longer in a calorie deficit anymore. I'm no longer able to lose body fat if we keep all these things the same. So what we have to do at this point is make some adaptations, some adjustments to that deficit so that you can start dropping body fat again. Now, when this happens, there are three things that we can do here. We can bring calories down and bring foods down. That's the first thing that I would look at doing. You want to keep your protein still very, very high at 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, but you want to adjust your carbs and your fat. So you could bring your carbs down a little bit, you could bring your fats down a little bit, but by adjusting our calories and bringing those carbs or fats down, you're going to increase that deficit and kickstart that fat loss journey again, and you'll start seeing that your scale weight will start dropping again. The second thing we could do is look at increasing our daily expenditure, our daily movement, by doing a few more steps. Now, I wouldn't go crazy with this and start cranking another 5,000 steps per day, because that's going to be a bit more difficult to sustain. But I would just simply look at adding an additional 1,000 to 2,000 steps per day on top of your daily average. So simply by moving more, you're going to expend more energy and therefore start creating that slightly larger calorie deficit. Now, the third thing that you could do is start adding in some LISS cardio, low intensity, steady state cardio, not high intensity interval sessions, burpees, long distance runs, just some LISS cardio. This could simply literally be jumping on a spin bike for 10 minutes. It could be walking on an inclined treadmill without holding the handles for 10, 15 minutes. But just by moving a little bit more, you're going to expend more energy and start creating that larger calorie deficit. Now, finally, this next part of the video is about navigating those weekends, those social events, those family meals, those work events that you need to attend, where realistically, there's going to be more calories involved, because there might be food, there might be drink, and we need to know how to navigate that if we're looking to lose body fat. This is the part of the lifestyle element. Okay, if you just simply try and eat chicken and rice 5 times a day and don't account for these things, it's not sustainable. It's not a long-term solution. So if you learn how to navigate these moments in life, you're going to be lean for life, which is what we try and work with all of our members on. So you basically want to see your calories as a weekly goal rather than just a daily goal. So let's say, for example, you are consuming 2,500 calories every day to lose body fat. Over the week, there's going to be 17,500 calories. We see that as a weekly total, 17,500 calories. Now, what we can do is if we know we have like a Saturday social or a Saturday event where there's going to be food and drinks involved, if you simply reduce calories on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday by 100 calories, you're freeing up 500 calories there, which you can then consume on Saturday. So on Saturday, you could have 3,000 calories. So you simply make a small tweak through the week, so to your calories each day, to allow yourself to have more calories at the weekend on that Saturday. You get back to normal on Sunday, 2,500 calories again as normal. And again, your weekly total then is still 17,500, so nothing's changed. So if you see your calories as a weekly total and you bank those calories using the calorie banking method I've just explained, you can have a bit more freedom and a bit more flexibility at your weekends, work events, or socials. So some calorie manipulation and some calorie banking will allow you to stay on track and still ultimately live the life that you want to live and enjoy life whilst getting in shape, which is what this is all about. You want to kind of imagine this as if you were saving money, okay? Like you're saving money to spend at the weekend because you've got something coming up or you want to buy something on a Saturday. Save your calories for that Saturday. Now, if you want a bit more information on this and how this kind of works, just DM me Metabolic on Instagram and I'm happy to reply to any questions, any messages that you have about this, and I'll explain how this method works, or any questions in general about fat loss, just feel free to message me over there and I can help you out. But I hope this was useful. Make sure you subscribe and thank you for watching.